in my junk journal today with a page I actually started way back in February. You haven't seen this one yet as it's been sitting in my journal for all this time. I wasn't really sure if I was going to show it, but then I was sorting through my growing collection of extra footage, the things that I've filmed that haven't quite made it into video yet, and decided that this page just needed a couple of extra layers to turn it into a video. So I'll let you know which bits I added this week and which bits I did in February. But in the meantime, if you enjoy the video, then please do like it and share it. And if you're new to my channel, then subscribe for your twice weekly art tips, tutorials and inspiration. So what you're watching now was all done in February this year. And I'm working on a Gesso page. And these first few layers are just really experiments with gouache paint. And if you want to see a list of the products that I've used, then don't forget that I list them all in the description under the video. So just click that show more button or the triangle if you're on mobile. I wanted to play with gouache and water and see how it performed on this gesso layer. It's quite a textured gesso that I've used here. And I'm hoping that the texture will make an interesting surface for the paint and the water. So let's see. Now this page is actually the one opposite the page I shared for my recent easy stenciling video. You know, the one with the sponged circles and then I doodled patterns into them? And I'll link that video up at the end of this one, and also you'll find a link to it in the description as well. So why did I choose gouache for today's page? Well, a few reasons really. One was that I kind of go through phases with my materials, and I'm pretty sure you probably do as well. And I was going through a gouache phase back at the beginning of the year, so a lot of the projects from then use it. And I'll probably go through another gouache phase soon. It's a great way of experimenting and working out how materials can work for you and what you want them to do. I like gouache as it's easy to work with and the colours are bright and it gives you a matte finish as well. Well, you can also get iridescent and metallic gouache paints as well that give you different finishes, and you've seen me use some of those in my videos too. But today I'm using a gouache paint that gives you a flat, opaque, chalk-like finish. And I have two different types. One is an acryl gouache, so it is a pigment in an acrylic medium and should behave very much like a matte acrylic paint. Although I'm not entirely convinced that this one completely does, but that's a story for another video. The other gouache paint is more traditional type in that it uses the same binding agent as you'd find in your watercolour paints, and so will still react to water when dry. But I didn't go out of my way to choose different types of gouache, it just so happens that I've picked them for the colours. Just as with my acrylic paints, I tend to mix and match my brands and types, and I like to try different brands to see which I like to work with. Oh, and on that subject, talking about acrylic paints, I have been getting lots of questions on the subject and which paints I use and which I would recommend. So I sent out a newsletter last week with my answer. Thank you everyone who has responded with their favourite paints too. I've loved hearing all about them. If you want to get that newsletter, I will put a link to my sign up page below and I will send out a copy to all my new subscribers. Don't forget to tick the email box at the bottom of the sign up sheet, otherwise I won't be able to send you my newsletter even if you give me your email and your name. And if you have been on my newsletter for a while now and didn't see that email from last week, then check your inbox or horrors of horrors, your spam filter. If you want to stay on my newsletter list, then don't forget to let me know, and I put a link in that email to make it easier for you to reaffirm that you do actually want to be on my email list. New subbies, you don't need to worry about this, but anyone who's been on for a while, then I'm afraid you will have to reaffirm. It's all down to some new regulations that are coming into full effect on the 25th of May. But hey, I don't want to get sidetracked into admin, so let's get back to this piece. So another thing that I wanted to try out with this piece was drawing or painting detailed images with a brush and the gouache. As gouache paint is opaque, I thought it would make a good alternative to the white paint pen issue. So I thought I would try it out like that. And I'm drawing one of my designs to get a feel for it with the brush. I was showing more of these designs over on my Instagram at the beginning of the year. Although I've also shared a couple here on YouTube too, and you might have spotted this very similar design to this one in my stamp carving process video. And if you haven't seen that one, here's a link to it in the cards, and I'll put a link to it in the description as well. So once I had this design in place, that's basically when I stopped this page, and it languished in my junk journal, and the video footage stayed on my hard drive untouched until this week. And I'll let you decide if you prefer it as it is, with just the blue and the white, or if you like the addition of the pinks and the reds layer. And you'll see the full effect of that at the end of the video. Again, it's just an experiment. My first thought was that I would completely cover the area around the design, just block it all off with the pink paint. And by the way, I've switched to acrylic paint now for this. But as I worked, I actually decided that I quite liked the dry brush texture that I was getting on that right-hand side. So I went with that instead. For the red layer, I wanted something a little more fluid so that there wasn't a sharp edge to the red, and the water seemed to help get that effect. Plus, I really liked how it pulled and feathered depending on what texture was underneath it. So I don't know if I'm going to add this to my bitty collection of art journal pages, like the last 2 pages that I shared the full process with you recently. Each of them had no real driving force other than a bit of experimentation, a bit of expression, and they started from very bitty origins, and they ended up a bit bitty too. I think I must be going through a very bitty phase at the moment. Well, thank you for travelling with me through this bitty page, and I hope that it has inspired you to go and make some art today. If you want some more art inspiration, then try these videos. And I'm already looking forward to our next arty catch-up.